Star Wars is in some ways quite an alien environment, and that is its purview since it's supposed to take place in an alien place. But I find that some of the lessons drawn from it might not be the best to follow in our world. And so I've wondered lately, looking at people discussing the question of Luke's character arc and whether it's changed by him lifting his fighter in a later movie, seem to be ignoring what to me are some of the main important questions. They didn't discuss Yoda's teaching methods at all. And certainly with the Force, as people learn and see more of the movies, it becomes a little bit questionable as to whether the Jedi education system is really working as well as it could, seeing as how some of the most powerful people never are part of the Jedi education system when they're younger, and it doesn't really seem to teach them to be stronger in the Force, more as a way of indoctrinating them into the Jedi belief system than anything else. So Star Wars is alien in some ways in that it's almost a voiceless world or galaxy. There's very little voice singing in Star Wars, and what little there is a group a cappella song with no lyrics that's sung in The Phantom Menace as a victory march when people don't know that the Emperor or the Senator Palpatine is going to end up being something more sinister than he appears. And there's an echo, I guess, in another movie which people have analyzed on YouTube, a slower version of the same song, which, when the only instance really of this song, it has to do with someone who's part of the dark side of the Force, that gives a somewhat negative connotation to the use of voice music. The characterization and dialogue in Star Wars are not always what we would consider the greatest in our own movie terms, or compared to how dialogue is written elsewhere. And the movies are in large measure carried by the music, which is instrumental in that it's externally produced in respect to the human voice. And the Force itself could almost be thought of as musical or represented by music, as there are various themes that play when various characters do important things, including Luke's attempt to lift his fighter out of the swamp. Yoda tells him, and in this I would agree, I think, that he has a lot of unlearning to do, and this could be something that could be thought of as important with singing. Except that you'd have to engage with the world, I think, in a lot of ways to be a better singer and be emotionally in touch and learn how to convey emotion and enjoyment in order to be a better singer. So that perhaps Jedi training might not be the best for developing someone as a singer in that regard. But he says that there's only do. There is no try. Of course, if you've seen some of my videos, they're essentially recordings of attempts, of tries. And so this is some of the things that I feel aren't exactly the right approach for some people, at least. Some people might gain by thinking there's no try. But for me, I would prefer to try. And although Luke's failure, as Yoda sees it, is attributed to a lack of belief, it seems to me that it might be necessary to even try in order to develop one's capacity to believe. Presumably there would come a time when Luke believes that Yoda has indeed lifted his fighter out of the swamp and can obey the evidence, can take in the evidence of his own eyes and ears as to whether that has happened. Now, I get a similar response in some of my videos, I think, because people see what I've tried to sing and say that's not singing, much the same way that Luke would say, I don't believe it, even after having witnessed it when Yoda lifts his fighter out of the swamp. And singing as an all or nothing proposition is not the way I at least prefer to think of it, because I would see that Luke has actually moved his fighter. He's bubbled it a little bit out of the way, out of the swamp, although he doesn't completely lift it out and take it over to a better landing spot the way that Yoda does, smoothly, and incidentally, as if he is conducting music. Yoda shows that, like concentration look and puts his hand out in a certain way, as if the Force is a set of instruments comprising an orchestra which he conducts. So in that respect, Yoda is not taking the same risks as a singer who is trying to see how far his or her range extends. And we don't, of course, know what the limits of Yoda's range are, because like the expectations of some people's approach to singing, they never show themselves going to the point at which the voice is strained or breaks down. We don't know what the heaviest fighter is that Yoda can lift, because he shows himself only doing. He never shows himself trying or having a partial success lifting something that's so heavy perhaps that the wings would flutter, and he'd take out a couple of trees on the way to setting it down, and so on. So whether this is helpful to Luke, I'm not sure any of the movies ever really tell us. Maybe Luke just doesn't have enough concentration of midichlorians in his bloodstream to do the required lift. Or maybe Yoda's methods of teaching are in a way holding him back, because he won't allow Luke a partial success, which then gets a little bit better over time. Maybe if he kept on trying, he would gradually lift his fighter a little farther and farther out of the swamp. Who knows? But there have been some great costs inflicted, I think, on society by Star Wars in the past by people adopting its belief system, particularly the attitudes toward cloning that came about as a result of the Star Wars movie. And so I've wondered whether something similar could happen with singing. Because if you present as an example for people growing up of what a desired universe in some ways is, a galaxy that's very spiritually and technologically advanced, where there is no singing virtually, then that seems to me doesn't provide a very good role model or model to work from in terms of developing or redeveloping the force of one's voice.